It's not a secret that stress kills. We know this. What if I told you it's your thoughts creating the stress? Because we think it's your environment causing the stress. It's the job, it's the boss, it's the home environment, it's our spouse, it's our kids, it's the cost of living. Everything else is dictating the stress that we're feeling. But what if it's actually your thoughts and your perceptions that are creating the environment that's making you sick? Ask me how I know. Hey, thanks for coming by my channel. It's a young channel and I really appreciate when you like or subscribe. Especially, I love it when you leave me comments. Today, I want to tell you a little bit about my own story. But if you've popped by here, Denise starting over at 60, you know what we're doing? We're going to work it together. We're going to feel the fear and do it anyway. We're going to start a life. We're going to start living our life. And you can leave everything. You can leave everyone and you can start over. It's possible. And today, I want to tell you a little bit about how I was sick, in many ways, actually. And it turns out it was my thoughts making me sick. So let's get ready. And I'm going to give you a few suggestions, a little bit of homework for the end of the video. But I want to tell you about how your thoughts are making you sick. So if you are unaware of what your thoughts are doing to you, we're going to become more conscious of our unconscious thinking. And I was thinking today, who came up with that saying, stinking thinking? All my problems are from my stinking thinking. If you know, let me know in the comments. I can't remember who said it, but it did make me giggle a little, but it's accurate, right? So when I started feeling some aches and pains, and pretty early on in my life, my feet started to fail, but I'd broken my ankles, I'd broken my feet. So all of the different various broken bones, and I have to admit there's been a lot. The assumption is, well, that's arthritis. You go to a doctor and you've got the aches and pains. I went to the doctor, I said, I feel like my foot is broken. She goes, well, did you fall down or something? No. She goes, well, that's arthritis. Arthritis just feels like your bones are broken. Well, that's not so great, is it? Right? And then your knees, and then my shoulders, and the back of my neck, then the back of my spine, my lower spine. Then I started getting nerve problems. And I didn't think I was old enough to be having all of this stuff going down. Then I started to realize it was what I was focusing on. Where you focus is where you're putting all of your energy and attention. And we've talked a little bit about this before. Today, it's going to be the topic of conversation. I was making myself sick. And I mean really in trouble. And I didn't even realize what I was doing. It wasn't until I started to learn from some of the great masters, like the Dr. Joe Dispenzas, that I realized it's what I'm focusing on, it's what I'm giving all of my attention to that's making me sick. I ended up in a wheelchair because my bones were so bad. My hands started to get all gnarly. Well, my mom's hands were all gnarly. It was like par for the course. This is just what's going to happen. I actually had a story about my physical failures, and that's just the way it was going to be. That's just how it was going to go. And when you're in a situation, and like being in a wheelchair was pretty serious. Both of my feet failed and I couldn't walk. Normally it would be one foot failing at a time. I had all sorts of different canes. When I ended up in a wheelchair, it became just part of my story. This is where I'm ultimately going to end up. This is what's going to happen as I become older and frailer. But I was only in my 50s. This is just a couple of short years ago. So what was going on? Well, I'll tell you briefly. Started renovating a new house, a little bungalow. because I'm going to need a bungalow for my old age. When we start to design it, we're taking this baby back to the studs. I start to hyper focus on every single detail in order to look after what my physical ailments will be. So for example, in the kitchen, all of the cupboards up top, drawers along the bottom. So the drawers can open all the way and I can see what's in there. I'm not going to have to stoop or reach or, do anything an old frail woman can't do, except I wasn't old and frail yet. But I started to get old and frail. My body started to fail. I didn't get it at the time. But the more I hyper focused on what's the width of the doorway and putting in barn doors so I could just slide them. Didn't have anything that had handles. So in the kitchen, you just push it and it pops open. I could hip check the lower drawers and they just open. The threshold for the shower, I wanted it so I could wheel into it. I was creating a life where I could no longer function. And guess what started to happen? I could no longer function. I started failing. My body started to give out on me. And it was so confusing and so devastating. I ended up in an emergency situation with my doctor, and she's sending me for MRIs and all the x-rays and everything else. Comes back. I've got degenerative disc disease in the back of my neck. I've got something going in the middle of my back. I've got stenosis in my lower back, which is creating all of this nerve numbness. My lower half of my body would stop functioning kind of intermittently, in and out. What was going on? What was going on is I was putting all of my attention onto how am I going to design my environment to support my sickness. And I created it. I made it happen inadvertently. It was really distressing. It was terrible. And then I realized, and it wasn't just my physical. It wasn't just physical. It was emotional. It was dealing with contractors. It was like having someone take your money and then not come back. And the worse it got, the worse it got. The more I focused on what was going wrong, the more everything started to go wrong. It was like a house of cards coming down. And I didn't know why. But I was such a victim to my environment. What I didn't know, it's my own thoughts and my perception of what was happening that was creating my environment. And I was getting sick in the environment that I was actually creating. So thankfully, I realized at some point, I just lifted my head up and thought, I got to turn this ship around. And it was Titanic. I felt for sure I'm on the Titanic, we're going down. Then I thought, what can I do? How can I turn it around? The great part about that was realizing how big it was and that I wasn't going to be able to just turn on a dime. That I started to understand, this is my mind. This is my brain creating everything around me. And oh boy, once I started to realize what I was doing, once I decided that I got to become aware of what my thoughts are doing to me, things started to turn around slowly. But I'll tell you what, and we're going to do this, we're going to work this together, because there's going to be an aspect in your life, it may not be physical, but there's stress in your life. And once you realize that you're actually causing the stress, and maybe it's not your boss, it's not the weather, it's not your house, it's not all of these other things that we think are happening to us. It also is a great level of freedom once you realize that you're just doing it to yourself. So, first things first. If you want to make changes in your life, the first thing you have to do is become aware of your thoughts. Now, I don't know about you, but what I started to do was think about what I was thinking about when I first woke up. When you first wake up, what do? You probably like grab for your phone. And if you're grabbing for your phone, you're already losing control of your environment because you're letting all of this other stuff come into you, right? You get caught up in the news cycle. You want to see who's doing what. What's somebody doing on their status update. And then you're judging, and then you're wondering, then you're comparing yourself. So you're already no longer aware of what your own thoughts are. And that's how you're starting your day. So I'm not saying you can't see your phone when you wake up, but don't see it right away. What if you could take even 30 seconds just to be aware of what is your first thought? And then what is your second thought? And what is your third thought? Because what those thoughts are determining how your day is going to go. And you could be running through a crazy to-do list and you already know you're not going to have enough time and you already know you're probably going to be late or you're running behind. You're already getting yourself worked up into the day and how it's going to go. So you're actually determining how your day is going to go. So what we're going to start doing, and it's not easy at first, because what you have to do is become conscious of your unconscious thinking, which is something you're doing all the time. And so when you're in the shower, you are not actually present in the shower. Your brain is already somewhere else. It's already in the future. It's taking it away. You don't know what you're thinking. You're just sort of following the rhythm of your day, the routine that you've always been in. So in order to start finding out what is it I'm thinking about, what I found was easiest for me was to, as soon as I thought it, I would write it down so I wouldn't forget. Or one of my favorite things was I would put sticky notes. I would have little reminders. I'm serious. I would put them all around the house. I could open up a kitchen cupboard and there would be a little sticky note in there. I put sticky notes on a little message to myself, put them on my daily calendar every day that you flip it over. I have little notes hidden in there. I would even hide sticky notes on my steering wheel so I would find it the next time I got in the car. When I'm making my coffee, I started to constantly remind myself to think about what I was thinking. That's a really good first step. I don't want to get into too much or make this a really long video, but if you can just start becoming aware of what it is you're thinking, that's half the battle. Because what we're going to do once we get further along this journey of starting over and rewiring our mind and changing our thoughts, you can't do anything until you're aware of what you're actually thinking. And once your thoughts start to reveal themselves to you, you will be amazed. You will have so many aha moments, I promise. But just for starters, I think the best homework to begin with is, what are your dominant thoughts? And they are sneaky. But normally once you can uncover one, it's going to reveal some other thoughts, maybe some beliefs that you weren't even aware that are there. And what I want you to do is start writing them down. Well, make little notes because you won't remember. I promise you won't remember to do this. So it is helpful to have little reminders. I also put alarms on my phone. A good friend showed me that. So you can have your alarm go off at 9 a.m. or at 10:15 a.m. Just little alarms, and you can put whatever message in there you want, and it'll alert you to think about what you're thinking. And that's the first step, because once you identify what your thoughts are, you're going to be able to see how they're driving your entire life, how they're creating your environment. So I want you to do that. And then in the next video, we're going to talk more about what you're going to do with it. And I would really love it if you are feeling brave enough and you would like to leave a comment about what are your first thoughts, or what are some things that you're thinking about that you get so caught up in them and you're ruminating, you don't even realize you're doing it. Or you could have 6 things going right All these things are going right, but one thing is going wrong. What are you obsessing over? You're obsessing over that one wrong thing. So start thinking about what you're thinking about. It's a really fun experiment because it's going to change everything. Because we're going to take those thoughts and we're going to flip them. So when you realize what it is you are thinking and you do the total opposite and start thinking about what it is you want, your entire life will change. I promise. So fun. So fun. And if you're running around, just try this. This is a fun little experiment. Then I'll let you go. In the morning, you're getting ready to go and you're always late. This used to be my thing. I was always running behind, always trying to do one more thing, always putting myself in that situation, right? Always never, like in the car, get hit by a train, making excuses. So exhausting. So what I started to tell myself was, because I realized I'm actually telling that to myself. I'm always late. I started telling myself, I'm always on time. I'm always on time. I'm always on time. And I don't know how. It's the beauty and magic of your own brain. If you keep telling yourself, I'm always on time, you will always be on time. Your brain will start to believe that you're the kind of person who's always on time. This is who we are. And it will make sure you're always on time. So fun. So fun. Anyway, thanks for hanging out with me for a little bit today. I'm curious to see what thoughts you find popping up, especially when you first wake up. I find it very revealing. And once I started to identify what I was focusing on and how I was creating my environment that was keeping me sick, and it was my perception of what was happening, it was my thoughts about what was happening. It wasn't actually the stress. It was me causing the stress. So look for it. Have a look in your own brain. Do a little bit of digging around. Shine a light on it. If you feel comfortable, share. And we'll talk more about it in the next video. Have a great day.